Does this mean more to the group, being England versus Australia? I imagine in your career there's games you'll remember and this will be one of them.
Oh, I think you always remember World Cup games regardless of who it's against, and I don't think you can put any more importance on one game over another in terms of your country's rivalries or anything, particularly when there's 2 points on the line in such a tightly contested table there. So it's going to be exciting, it's going to be big, no doubt, but at the end of the day, it's still 2 points up for grabs regardless of who you're playing.
Aaron, I'm guessing that you haven't had a look at the pitch yet.
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I guess, can you tell us what you're kind of thinking? You're not going to reveal your 11, I imagine, but what the discussions around selection will be, or what they have been, or what they will be this afternoon?
Yeah, it'll be based more around when we see the wicket, what the conditions will provide. I think we saw yesterday, as the game went on, it started to turn a little bit more than we probably expected it to. Here, it looked like there was a little bit in it to start with, and then it dried out and sort of powered it up and started turning. So that'll be a case for discussion, no doubt. Which way we go with the quicks. We've been really flexible with our group the whole way through, and that stems from our top order being really flexible with where they bat right the way through specific matchups with the ball and stuff like that. So that'll be the main issues or the main talking points of selection.
Aaron, as the World Cup has gone on, or since you've landed in England, have your plans of using Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins changed, in the sense you're giving them shorter spells with the new ball, bringing them back when you need a wicket? Like, has that changed since you've come here?
No, we always knew how important the middle overs will be. I think if you look at all the stats down over the last couple of years of one-day cricket, teams that are really successful through their middle overs tend to win a lot more games, just based on they're going into the back half of the innings, especially the last 15 overs with 6, 7, 8 wickets in hand. It's hard to stop no matter who you're playing and no matter what your death bowling options are. So we always knew coming into it that their middle overs will be important, and especially Starkey and Pat, just by their aggressiveness with the ball and their wicket-taking ability.
Aaron, I'm sure you just focused on your job and winning the game for your team, but the predicament that England might be in if you beat them, a big nation, a rival potentially, how mindful are you of their potential predicament if you can knock them off tomorrow in terms of the semi-finals?
Oh, I think if you look at England's record over the last couple of years, I think I read something the other day that they haven't lost back-to-back ODIs in England for quite some time. So, and if you look at their trend, they tend to bounce back and go ultra aggressive as well. So we're ready for that. We're expecting them to come out ultra hard and take the game on, which has been one of their main traits over the last couple of years in particular. So we've focused more about what we're doing well and what we can improve in our game. But I think as you get further into the tournament, you've seen each team play a lot of games in different conditions, on different surfaces, against different opposition. So it just gives you a bit more of an idea of how you expect them to play based on your matchups.
Finch, for some of the guys that are going to be here for 4 months or so, is there anything being done to try and keep them mentally fresh for the moment and also for the long term? Yeah,
the last few days and pretty much to our whole tournament, there's always been, if there's been a couple of training days, one of them's always been optional, just to make sure that the guys are remaining as fresh as they can, because I know when you're on the road a lot and you tend to be in your hotel room, in a dressing room, or out there playing, or in a bus travelling up and down the motorway. So I think it's really important that most guys are experienced enough to listen to their bodies and be able to make that call on when they feel they need to hit a few more balls or put their feet up and not even come to training. I know I think Davey was the only one that didn't come yesterday. Most guys will have a bit of a run around in a field today, but that's about it. It's been really flexible in that regard, just to make sure guys are getting enough time away from a cricket ground.
Aaron, no Jason Roy for England. James Vince will play instead. How big a loss do you see that being for England, and can you target James Vince, who as yet hasn't got a score in this tournament?
Yeah, James played really well in the warm-up game against us and got 60-odd down at Southampton. He's proved to be a class top-order player in his own right, so you can never underestimate anyone in any opposition, and we've done our due diligence on him, as we have with every other player. So it'd be really naive to overlook someone of his quality, because you just leave yourself short and you leave yourself open to making some mistakes there. But yeah, I think Jason's been a huge part of their planning and a huge part of their success over the last couple of years as well. So he obviously plays a high tempo and high risk game, which when it comes off is super influential on the game, I think. So, but like anything, if you rush someone back from a niggle, and we weigh that up all the time when guys have got niggles. If you push them a bit hard early, and then they're out for the rest of the tournament, it can be a tough decision to make.
Do you sense the pressure is increasing on England with that injury and the defeat to Sri Lanka? Can you take advantage?
Oh, I think the pressure's increasing on everyone. As soon as you get to the business end of the tournament, we've got 3 games left against 3 great sides. So the pressure's there on each and every individual, but also each and every team. Teams will be pushing for that last couple of spots in the final 4. Whether you're in there at the moment or you're pushing hard to be that side, I think the pressure's on everyone.
Finchy, I know you're probably over talking about this, but Johnny Bairstow's put a column out that suggested Australia are hypocritical because after the 2013 Ashes, Stuart Broad was encouraged to be booed, I guess, by Darren Lehmann, and now JL's come out and said that obviously Australia don't want Steve Smith and David Warner booed. Do you have a view on that?
Oh, I think whatever the public do, you're not going to change it. Whether someone comes out and says do or don't, I think it's just gonna happen regardless anyway. And it hasn't affected our boys one bit. I can honestly say that. If anything, it's given them a bit more motivation. It doesn't. As a player, you don't tend to hear a hell of a lot of stuff from the fans. You hear noise at times, but you don't hear specifics. So I'm sure that's the last thing from Steve or Davey's mind when they're walking out to bat. If a handful of people or a whole stadium are booing him, it doesn't make any difference to how hard they watch the ball or how hard they doubt themselves or anything like that. I think it's a bit of white noise, to be fair.
Aaron, just on that, what did you make of the sort of bromance that sort of came to pass during the IPL between Johnny Bairstow and David Warner? And just as an overall point, how easy is it to flick the switch back into international cricket when you're coming up against guys that you'll have got to know pretty well at domestic level? Yeah,
I think that's a great thing about domestic tournaments around the world now, is you get an opportunity to play with guys that you might have had perception on just from playing against them about how they played, what kind of bloke they are or something like that. So I think that's opened up everyone's eyes to 99% of people that you play with are good blokes, regardless of what tournament it is or who you're playing for. But it's pretty easy to flick back into international mode. No doubt it's a game representing your country. There's a lot of pride on the line. There's a couple of points in a World Cup which is so tightly contested. So I think a bit like anyone who plays with Davey, they see a side of him when they play against him, then they see one when they play with him, and he's a great man. He's someone that obviously Johnny and him have had some run-ins on the ground too. So it's good to see that when you do get an opportunity to get to know somebody that you take that advantage.
And are these guys feeding into your plans? Say for example, Johnny Bairstow, will Dave Warner come to you and said, "I've spotted this about the way?" Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, everyone's involved in sort of planning meetings and things like that. So you get an opportunity to talk, whether it's in a structured meeting or over a coffee or dinner or a beer, whatever it might be. I think you're as cricketers, we're all nuffies at the end of the day for the game. So you're always talking about the game and coming up with different strategies and things that you've seen over time, and a lot of times that changes when a guy's come in as a youngster into international cricket. Their game changes dramatically over a period of time, so you always have to be adapting, and that's what's a great thing about these the domestic T20 comps, is that you get to play with and against so many different players that you wouldn't have had the access to in the past, that you do get to see more of them.
Sam, just please keep it to one question, everyone, so we can get around the room.
Aaron, how closely are you monitoring the Aussie guys, and specifically, what's the feedback been from Matthew Wade? Probably not only the last week or so, but the last 6 months of his career.
Yeah, we've been keeping an eye on the score. There's been a bit of chat between the JL and Hickey and myself and things like that. So it's great to see Wadey come out and smacking him. He's done that for quite a while in domestic cricket now, so it's great to see that they've had a couple of really good wins, the A boys, so and quite convincing as well. So that's really good, and I think it's a sign of the strength that we're building over the last couple of years is the depth of Australian cricket is starting to get back to what people call the heyday, the glory years of the early 2000s and times like that when the competition underneath the men's and women's international team was so fiercely competitive that it's starting to get back to that. Guys who are getting an opportunity wherever it might be, they're putting their hand up and being counted and making sure that they're in the forefront of selectors' minds when selection comes up.
You've been really good as a captain. You already won the Big Bash, but what was after becoming the international captain, was there any moment when, oh, this is difficult, I need to improve on this? And second, what has been the most satisfying, happy aspect of your captaincy?
Oh, there's always things that you can improve on and you look to learn. For me, when I first started in leadership roles, I was quite young like in all the junior representative teams and things like that, and doing it, I think 8 years ago for the Melbourne Renegades, I think from to now, I've changed a lot. I think just in the way that I used to talk a lot, and some feedback from the boys was don't talk so much. So I took that on board, and I don't tend to not talk as much around team meetings or things like that. I try and let everyone else have their own say and just contribute where I need to. And in terms of most satisfying, I think it's seeing guys come into an environment and feel really comfortable in the Australian team when they first come in. It can be a daunting place when you come from domestic cricket to the international, especially if it's an international tour. You're away from home, you're away from your comfort zones. So to have guys come in and be really comfortable in and around the team straight away, I think that's a really big positive for myself and the coaching staff and all the other senior players that contribute to a lot of that. So it's a bit more than wins and losses in a leadership role. It's about making sure that you're creating a great environment for everyone to succeed in.
Aaron, I take your point about the pressure kind of growing on every team as you get nearer and nearer to the end of the group stage. I'm sure that's absolutely right. The thing is, when I look back at the last 20 years or 30 years, Australia in World Cups have dealt with that pressure and gone on to win the World Cup. I mean, and England fundamentally haven't. So, I mean, that must be a huge help, isn't it? I mean, dealing with the pressure and actually winning World Cups is part of your DNA in the way that it just isn't for England. Yeah,
I think that over the World Cup's history, I think Australia have had that great record of peaking at the right time of the tournament. And I think when you look back to the '99 World Cup, Australia were on wood for a lot of that tournament and played their best cricket under real pressure, and the senior players stood up when it was counted, and I think that's a great learning for everyone, and the fact that we've got 6 guys in our squad who were a part of the 2015 World Cup win is really valuable. We've also got Ricky Ponting with us, Brad Haddon with us as coaching staff who have won World Cups and multiple World Cups as well. So just to be able to share that experience of what you might feel when you walk out into the middle in a knockout game or a high pressure game, England and Australia at Lords, it doesn't get much bigger than that. It's going to be a great day, great spectacle, great to be a part of. So I think having that experience of guys who can almost share what you might be feeling, so you can almost be prepared for it before you're in that situation, I think is invaluable.
Over the past couple of years, obviously England's one-day record against Australia has been very good, something like 10 wins out of 11. But you won the warm-up game in Southampton. Do you look at that and say that shows that you've turned a corner, perhaps?
I think the warm-up game there was quite a few of England's probably first choice 11 missing. Joe Root didn't play, Owen didn't play, Archer didn't play. So I don't think you can say that. I think that we're going in with a lot of confidence, no doubt. We've been playing some really good cricket and building up to I think where our level is, to play really consistent international cricket on the big stage. And I think when you get into a situation where the crunch comes, it's going to be the team that holds their nerve. I think if you look at every team, you look down the list and you pick out 8 or 9 match winners in every team, and then you've got guys that are so integral to that part, and they make up the 11. So I look at our side and see a lot of match winners. I look at England, India, Pakistan, New Zealand, West Indies. Like everyone has match winners and guys who can, on their day, blow a game apart. So it's about the team that holds their nerve the longest and under the highest pressure that will succeed, no doubt.